we do carry this thing in our head as relational cultural practitioners that a good relationship is one in which everyone has an opportunity to grow. No one's fully formed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so if we hit those places where it's like, oh, I mean, where we find the resistance and we, or find the dislike sometimes, or boredom, or all of those things, if we, if we can at least hold that, not as a defect in ourselves, but as some sort of signal that something is opening here. There's something to be curious about here. And I may not do it in the moment, maybe too much in the moment for the relationship. It's not what the relationship can bear in the moment. Sometimes we can, we do need to exercise our expertise and good judgment and say, okay, what would be the purpose right now? Or is this the right time? Or is this the right place to do it? Being curious about that is really different from kind of locking down in the kind of shame that says, okay, therapist face,
or
lean
teacher
forward,
face, or
yeah. I can remember what do we call it? Advanced accurate empathy.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing that in school and thinking, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Right. That's Robert Karkoff, right? And it's how you sit, how you lean, your eyes, and I'm simply, I'm certainly not being dismissive or being disrespectful of that. I'm simply saying when we get to that place that makes us scared and makes us retreat or something into shame, maybe we should just have enough sort of respect for ourselves to know that something has gotten activated in us. And we may be pushing, going into some sort of protective mode of ourselves. That's not especially helpful, in that maybe it's, we're now able to learn something new.
Yeah. That made me think of conversations with people who might be at a different place in their understanding of a social justice or anti-racism work, and noticing when inside I get sort of dismissive and a little bit or a lot self-righteous, depending on what's going on. And as you were talking, I was thinking that's because that's a spot in me that resonates a little bit, either it resonates or I'm so uncomfortable with it that it's fresh enough for me. Like I've moved what I think of as past it too recently. And then I'm not curious about that reaction. I start focusing on the other person, not in a good way.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's right up there as number one or two, probably number two in our ethical practice. We do need to know the limits of what we can do at any given time. And I think it's absolute insanity to try to engage someone in some reasonable way when all you're getting is their sort of overly activated, overly adrenalized fear, anger, rage. That's not a good time to have a conversation. And so I guess I would respect I do respect the part of myself that says, this is not my conversation.
Absolutely.
This is not my time. Some of my earliest professional work was in an inpatient addiction recovery unit. And I'm real clear that before anything called therapy would start, people had to be detoxed. There are times when people are so adrenalized. I mean, remember the guy with the horn and the fur and all that craziness on January?
Yeah.
Really want to have a conversation with him then?
Right.
I mean, I don't know about now. I certainly haven't been following him on Instagram, but but certainly not on that day would you try to have that kind of conversation. So I think it's important also to respect our protective impulses.
I think of toddlers all the time when I think of this work, not in a derogatory way toward toddlers or toward adults who are struggling with this, but in that when toddlers are having a meltdown, they cannot learn. Like you can't sit down and be like, Johnny, let's have a rational conversation about sharing. Like,
yeah. No, no,
You just want to keep Johnny from hurting people. And
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Right now, we are in the
Yeah.
world and it's a painful place.
Yeah.
It's just a painful place right now. Until we are able to sort of be with other people who can help us be with that pain and know how to move through it, work with it, so that we can keep doing whatever we do in the world. We're going to give empathy short shrift. We're going to, we're going to do therapist face empathy. And that does lead us, I think, into respectful conflict, where we are not necessarily trying to vanquish someone, but we are confronting our differences. If that can happen, if respectful conflict can happen, it can't always happen at the time, like something pops off, it may be another time or maybe another person, or we have to decide, well, what are we trying to accomplish anyway? Right. What I do know is that sometimes when I avoid conflict, it's purely out of disrespect.
Right.
It's like, not worth it. And, which is, again, a protective strategy of disconnection, me under stress and all. But I'm actually saying that I think empathy allows us to move into conflict with people with the intention of doing it in ways that are safe for, for the relationship, for ourselves, with the other person, not trying to, beat them down or anything.
Would it still be something where you would be starting with understanding, with like trying to understand and then try to hold the differences? Or
I don't know if we can start with understanding, because sometimes I don't think we get there ever.
Right. So when we're just pretending to understand, that's not.
No. I'm actually thinking about conflict sometimes is no more than revealing, being willing, without knowing the outcome, but being willing to speak a truth for ourselves, which may be how something is having an impact on us in the relationship.
How it's impacting us in the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, or if we see that we've done something and it didn't land well, say with our clients. I mean, there are no perfect words or anything, but just being willing to acknowledge, like, that it didn't go over well with you, and what's up?
Yeah. I'm always grateful when people are willing to tell me that has happened.
We're going to do it anyway. We're going to run into those places anyway, all the time. And if, when I think about my favorite therapist, I spend a lot of time, and simply because I think of the power differential and my sense of how much I needed her, I spent a lot of time trying to make sure she didn't know when she didn't get something. One of my commitments is I don't want people to protect me in that way.
Yeah.
How do we work with it? Because I'm not the only one doing it. And sometimes that's when we stop growing, is when we cannot speak what's true for us. So if we can do it in our relationship, if I've said something that was like, wait a minute, that just went sideways or came out sideways, then it's good for us. It's good for us to kind of go there if we can, when we're ready. It's like believing that empathy is self-sacrifice. It's not erasure. I do think it is about knowing that we keep moving and growing, and whatever self is changing all the time anyway. And if we are in a relationship with someone and it sort of brings us to our growing edge, that's a good place to be. I think the failure then would be to retreat, resist, to lack curiosity about that edge, even if we don't do anything with it in the moment. Maybe the time isn't right in the moment. If we sort of keep on that mantle of authority and whatever our images are of how we should be, you can strangle the life out of a relationship like that.
Yeah.
I think it's Irene Stiver who talked about impasses. If we're kind of clinging to this sort of therapist face image of empathy and all of that, we're not moving into the relationship. We're moving to the image.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. Like the image versus the actual connection.
Mhm.
So do you have any thoughts on how to come back after like retreating into therapist face, or literally retreating, or
One true thing always works. And the thing I love about that is that it's not the perfect true thing. It's not the only true thing.
Mhm.
Saying something that is true, gauging, being willing to just kind of be and kind of muck around and be raggedy a little bit. If we can give up this notion of perfection and winning and always looking good, I think sometimes we tell ourselves that if we aren't perfect, or if we aren't always wise or all knowing or unflappable, whatever it is, then we're harming someone.
Mhm.
And if we can sort of give up that notion that of perfection, of having to be perfect, I think we have a little more courage to kind of like stay in the uncertainty a little longer.
Yeah, there's more room.
Yeah, there's a little more breathing room. Our responsibility is to sort of know what we need to do to try to practice those things that allow us to stay grounded, that allow us to stay oriented, that allow us to stay as a witness, And that often means we just really have to slow down and do more pausing and more breathing than we like to do. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's more pausing and breathing than I like to do. And just the ability sometimes to, slow it down, to really breathe, to, really get our feet on the ground and butt in the chair, our chest opened a little bit, noticing the constrictions, trying to like just slow it and be with it and know that that's why we're there, to offer our presence and our witness to someone else. And that in itself is kind of stronger than words.
Yeah.